Hey everyone, at Don here again, and I'm back with another episode of the Bits and Pieces, this time the usual Friday installment. You know what I do here, horror news and horror related topics. Let's get right to it. We're going to movieweb.com. This is written by Kevin Burbick and published on July 15th, 2019. Title of the article is It Chapter 2 will have a monster opening weekend, but can it beat the original? There's a nice little picture of Pennywise for us. Let's get into the article. The initial box office tracking for It Chapter 2 is here, and it's looking very good for the highly anticipated sequel. The first installment hit theaters in 2017 and now holds the record for the highest grossing debut weekend in September. And if that wasn't enough, Andre Macheti's big screen adaptation of Stephen King's iconic source material is also the highest grossing R-rated horror movie of all time. And now it looks like the sequel may be able to break some more records when it hits theaters this fall. It Chapter 2 is expected to bring in anywhere from 110 to 150 million during its opening weekend at the box office. And for a horror movie, that it would just be incredible. I was okay with It Chapter 1. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I still prefer the Tim Curry version from the 90s, even though it's a bit more low budget compared to what we got with It Chapter 1. And I did enjoy it overall on a whole. There was just a little bit too much nostalgia again, similar to like what we have in Stranger Things, driven by nostalgia and a little hollow, but I did enjoy it and I'm looking forward to number 2. But that amount of an opening weekend again will only continue to help the horror genre. It's seeing a renaissance. It's going in that direction. We're getting some reboots. We're finally getting the properties handled well. Now if we can just get Friday the 13th back, then we're talking, but I'm excited about that. So I'm going to check it out. I'm going to support it. Continue on with the article. To put things into perspective, the first installment surprised everyone and made $123.4 million right out of the gate. This means the sequel is on track to beat that and possibly even take down Deadpool and Deadpool 2 for the highest grossing R-rated opening weekends. Again, that is just incredible that we're talking about a horror movie beating a character from the MCU, one of the best characters in my opinion. Even though they were R-rated movies, horror versus action superhero movies, that's usually not a fair fight. It's usually one-sided, but hey, more power to it too. The hype is strong with It Chapter 2 as fans look forward to seeing how Andre Machete finishes Stephen King's story. Even conservative estimates are finding 136 million to be the number for It Chapter 2, which means it would clear the aforementioned highest grossing R-rated opening weekend and highest September opening. The first footage dropped recently, and it did not look like what many people were expecting it to, which is definitely a good thing since some of us are wondering if Andre Machete will be able to keep things moving forward as opposed to featuring what worked so well in the first movie. With that being said, we are looking at an entirely new Losers Club. And then it goes on to describe what the Losers Club is, the amalgamation of all the adults as they've grown up. It Chapter 2 features the adult version of Bill Denbrough, Beverly Marsh, Richie Tozier, Ben Hanscom, Stanley Uris, Mike Hanlon, and Eddie Kasprak. The younger cast from 2017's It is on board for the flashback scene, so we're going to see some of that, with Finn Wolfhard recently confirmed, also noting that they had a lot of fun making the sequel, even though they're not in the movie as much as they were the first time around. Obviously, they're just going to be in flashback scenes. As for more footage dropping, we very well could see something by the end of the week at San Diego Comic-Con, which is happening this upcoming weekend. That has yet to be confirmed, but we'll soon find out. The initial It Chapter 2 numbers were originally reported by Box Office Pro, so thank you Box Office Pro, and thank you as always MovieWeb.com. And that's it for this article. It Chapter 2 will have a monster opening weekend, but can it beat the original? So with that, let's get on to the next one. And for our next article, we go back to bloodydisgusting.com, another favorite here on the Bits and Pieces. This one is written by Brad Mishka, published on July 15th, 2019. The title of the article is Crawl Took a Small Bite Out of the Box Office. So this is a review breakdown of what happened this weekend with Crawl's opening weekend. So there's a picture of the two lead characters in Crawl. This is again Brody and Brad Mishka. I really enjoyed Paramount Pictures' Alec Aja and Sam Raimi collaboration Crawl, which pitted Kaya Scalodero and Barry Pepper against several massive alligators in the middle of the hurricane. It's easily my favorite film by the French-born filmmaker since his ultraviolet debut, Haute Tension. While Aja never stopped being a great filmmaker, this was the first time since his collaboration with Wes Craven on a remake of The Hills of Eyes that it really felt like he was able to truly be himself. Whether this is true or not is subjective, but for one reason I was rooting for Kral to succeed was that studios would once again consider him for bigger projects. Give us the Aja of old and let him do his thing. I agree. Completely agree with Bad Mishka. More Alexander Aja. Let's go. While Kral didn't exactly blow the roof off theaters, puns intended, it did manage a respectable $12 million domestic, opening against some really heavy competition, also leaving Stuber in the dust. It also added $4.8 million internationally for a global opening of $16.8 million. It's not quite the hit I was hoping for, but it's also likely going to swim into the profit zone thanks to the modest and respectable $13.5 to $15 million reported budget. I'm looking at you, the Meg and Alita. I still need to get out to see this movie, so there's a little bit more support coming for this movie. 1 ticket, maybe 2. Paramount has had some strong openings overseas, and it will be interesting to see how the next few weeks unfold for Kral. We'll report back on Sunday with updated numbers. If that does happen, I'll give an update in the next installment of the Bits and Pieces, because I'm interested to see how this plays out for this movie, because I was excited as well. The news about it I covered in last Friday's episode. I wanted to see it do it well. Hopefully it picks up a little bit more steam. It is a modest opening weekend, and it has room to grow, so hopefully it does. International numbers will likely make or break it as a profit for Paramount. Then it just goes on to say, in other box office news, Ari Aster's Hereditary follow-up Midsummer added another $3 million for an $18 million domestic total through 2 weekends. As I pointed out last weekend, that's really good for a longest heck art film on par with Hereditary. A24 hasn't reported any international numbers yet. The most under-the-radar news is that Annabelle Comes Home, the third film in the Conjuring spin-off series, blasted up globally after adding a crap ton internationally, and it currently sits at 174 million worldwide, and it's eyeing 200 million. I sometimes read the articles before I go through. I didn't have time this week. That's crazy. That is a crazy number. That's even more than it. That's for opening weekend. For Annabelle, I would expect it, but for that many into the spin-off sequels, 200 million for a horror movie, wow, which seemed unlikely after its soft opening weekend. As I previously explained, the domestic take is proof of box office clutter, and it's still finding a way to decimate across the world. The Conjuring universe is unstoppable right now, and there's another picture of the Kral alligator. Didn't do as well as I was hoping. Hopefully it picks up a little bit more steam or on home release. I'm going to go and check this out. I hope everyone else does as well that's a horror fan. That sounds like a really good monster movie, and Annabelle, that's shocking that happened. Anyways, that's it. That's the box office update for the week. Kral took a small bite out of the box office for this week. That's it for this article. Let's get on to the next one. For our next article of the week, we're going back to darkuniversehorrordatabase.com. It's published by Nick Bond on July 15th, 2019. And this is Shudder's Creepshow TV series presents the official poster featuring The Creep. So there's what The Creep is going to look like. Now, this is a story I was going to cover before, but I didn't like the article. I didn't present it. But Shudder has developed, and it's on the way, an anthology series based on the original Creepshow. So we're getting more Creepshow, but it's going to appear on Shudder. So let's get on with the article. The official poster artwork for Shudder's Creepshow TV series has arrived today, featuring the return of our beloved Creep. It puts a smile on my face, and mine as well. That's Nick Bond who's talking there, but I'm happy to see it. To see a photo of the legendary George A. Romero sitting on the top of the television, right up there in the corner. So that is an awesome touch and an homage to this. And it goes on to say that Jeffrey Combs from Reanimated, David Arquette from Scream, Tricia Helfer from Battlestar Galactica and Lucifer, Dana Gould from The Simpsons and Stand Against Evil star alongside Adrienne Barbeau, Giancarlo Esposito, Tobin Bell, Kid Cudi, Big Boy, Bruce Davidson, and DJ Qualls in this show. So I'm going to cover more of this as we get closer to it. So what we have here is a condensed version of what's going to be on the show, like little detailed blurbs of what each episode. We're not going to get into that. I just wanted to present this image and let you know this show is a thing. It's on the way, and you're going to get more coverage of this on the Bits and Pieces. And that's it for this article. Shudder's Creepshow TV series presents the official poster featuring the Creep. There it is. Stay tuned for more news on this show as it happens here on the Bits and Pieces. And with that, let's get on to the next article. And for our last article of the week for this week's episode of the Bits and Pieces, we go back to bloodydisgusting.com. This time, the article is written by John Squires and is published on July 16th, 2019. The title of the article is Disney's The Black Hole finally being released on Blu-ray as part of the Disney Movie Club. So there's the robot from The Black Hole. Released in 1979, sci-fi epic The Black Hole was notable for being Disney's very first film released with a PG rating, and it was also at the time the most expensive film that Disney had ever produced. For years, fans have been begging for a Blu-ray, and DVD Newsflash has just informed us that The Black Hole is finally coming to Blue, but there's a catch. Unfortunately, The Black Hole Blu-ray is exclusive to the Disney Movie Club members. It's not uncommon for Disney to have Movie Club exclusives, and this one is expected out in August. Now, I have seen this movie, but I haven't seen it in ages, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to check it out. So it sounds like it's coming out, but it's going to be exclusive to the Disney Movie Club. So keep your eyes peeled on the resale sites, eBay.com, that sort of thing, because that sounds like the only place we're going to be able to get actual copies of it. So in the 1979 film directed by Gary Nelson and starring Anthony Perkins, a research vessel finds a missing ship commanded by a mysterious scientist on the edge of the black hole, and the film's cast also includes Maximilian Schell, Robert Forster, Ernest Borgnine, Joseph Bottoms, Yvette Miu, Tom McLaughlin, and Rowdy McDowell. Check out the original trailer below. That is a star-studded cast from the 70s. That is packed. There's the trailer there, and there's the anticipated artwork, so what it's going to look like. The Black Hole, presented by Disney, the anniversary edition in the Disney Movie Club. And with that, this is the end of this week's episode of the Bits and Pieces. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support I always get. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And that's it for this week's episode. I'll see you next week, and I will talk to you soon.